G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. Going to be going over my tips for round 20. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video, and let's get right into it. Okay, so as always, we do start off with how I did go last week, and probably I'd say our best round of tipping so far this year. We managed to get ourselves a 8 out of 9. Brilliant. The only tip getting wrong though was the opening game of the round. The Dons and the Crows went with Essendon at home, and the Crows haven't beaten the Dons since 2017, I'm pretty sure. But what a win it was for them. I'd say probably one of the games of the year. Back and forth, high scoring, but they just really took their chances late. How about Ben Keys' game and 𝗏𝐼𝐿𝐼's snap? You love to see it. And then, yeah, got every tip right for the remainder of the round. The Saints against the Eagles, pretty straightforward. The Giants have the wood over the Suns, and they were just so clinical. And how about this? I saw about 50% tipped Collingwood, but I just had to go with Hawthorn, given the form they're in and the form that Collingwood are displaying, and absolutely belted him. And I think that could be the nail in the coffin, final nail in the coffin perhaps for Collingwood's season. We'll see. Port Adelaide versus Richmond. The Tigers gave Port a bit of a scare, but their class ran away with it. The Dogs, only 8% I saw tipped the Bulldogs in this game. Just felt with that ground, and they played I think down Geelong pretty well. Their contested game, and the conditions really did suit them as they battered Geelong. The Lions over the Swans, felt this one would be very close, and there you go. It was, again, a game of the year contender. Really good quality game. But yeah, just the Lions were able to take those chances late. Fremantle against the D's, I felt this one. I just had to back in Freo, given it was at the home ground. And the Blues against North Melbourne. North pretty gallant, but the Blues too good. Rightio, so let's have a quick look at my tipping competition. It was a pretty difficult round, I think, to get a 9 out of 9, and only 4 people in my competition did get a full 9 out of 9. It was 𝐼𝐿_, 𝗟𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿, 𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐿𝐼𝐿, and 𝗵𝐼47, all getting 9 out of 9. Congrats to them. Pretty tough round to do it in. And as for who is leading my competition, it still is 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐷𝐿𝐼𝐿 with a total score of 138. Okay, let's start now with our tips for round 20. We did do our final 5 rounds predictions video the other day ago, so maybe my mind has changed with a few of these games for the upcoming round. So we start Friday night, the Blues taking on Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. The Blues the past few weeks, I feel like have been a little bit more vulnerable. They've been well exposed throughout periods of games in the midfield. You could say that for the past 3 of their matches. Lost to GWS, lost to the Bulldogs, and I'd say an unconvincing win against North Melbourne, where we all expected them to win well. And I feel like their defensive transition especially, has been a little bit suspect. So definitely going to really fix up on those areas. The Blues are the best, really dominate that midfield, and especially from stoppage too. And this is what they did against Port Adelaide in that 4th quarter, back with a reverse fixture, back when they played at the Adelaide Oval. So that's certainly going to be key for them winning. As for Port Adelaide, they've been a little bit scratchy themselves in terms of form. They've been convincing, then unconvincing the next week. But for �kenny 𝐼𝐿𝐼, pressure is building, need to win these sort of games to maintain their push for the 8. Charlie Dixon was one of Port Adelaide's best players against the Tigers last week. Got to continue to do that. Show aggression in the air, especially if he is playing on 𝗬𝐻𝐿𝐼, because he's a very good one-on-one player. Port Adelaide play Marvel usually very, very well. It's a bit of a happy hunting ground for themselves. The midfield battle is going to really be a big one, because if Port are able to control the footy, really lock it in that forward half, move it well, and go with that aggressive ball movement through the corridor at Marvel, I like them here. But given it's at home, I just look at the Blues. Their turnover game still is very good. They're a damaging side, especially when they get it going. They've been not so great the last few weeks. I feel like this is the game where they do bounce back and start to now get the ball rolling a little bit. They've got to get a bit more consistency from that midfield group. Defensive transitions also let them down a little bit too, but if they can really move it well, which they can do at Marvel, that can expose Port Adelaide's defence if you really get that slingshot attack going. So I'll go with the Blues here. I do like Port Adelaide here for a bit of an upset tip. This is just sort of the games I think Port do win, but I'll go safe here with the Blues, and they'll win one by 12 points. For the Saturday games now, first one up, we do have North Melbourne taking on the Cats at Blundstone Arena. Don't mind this game for the Kangaroos in terms of a game where they could really turn up and maybe get a sneaky win. The Cats well exposed in the midfield, and this has been a long-term issue I've been saying about the Cats, I think, all year long, really. how's their midfield going to stand up? It was well beaten by a quality midfield of the Bulldogs last week, but how do they fare against some more of a younger and developing and inexperienced side of North, where they've got nothing to lose, really, finishing off this season? They just want to play their best footy, whilst the Cats simply must win if they want to make the top 4. Against the Blues, I was really impressed with North's ball movement, aggressive, a lot of hand passes, taking it through the corridor, and they're able to win some important clearances. I thought 𝐓𝐡𝐞 was good early on, 𝘼𝐷𝐿 just continuing to really have some good quality games through the middle too. Cherry, love him as the aggressive ruckman, and can he win a lot of clearance himself in this game, given that Geelong's rucks stocks this year have let them down? But the real question is, am I brave enough to tip North here? It's in Tassie, so it's a bit of a YOLO tip. I could see them maybe leading for a half or so, but the quality of Geelong, the last 5 weeks, I know that they were well beaten by the Dogs, but the conditions weren't really in their favour. I felt it just suited the Dogs a lot more. So this is a game I can definitely see Geelong bouncing back. You know, their forwards, just so many contributors when they get up and about. And look at some of their wins the past couple of weeks. So they've been still quality, the Cats. They should be too good here for North Melbourne. And we'll back them in, and they'll win this game by 4 goals. Then at 4:35 PM, we head to the second Q clash of the season at People's First Stadium, Gold Coast, taking on the Brisbane Lions. I'd say last week Brisbane probably had one of their best wins of the season, not in terms of quality, but more just spirited and how big it was for their club. They just played so well as a team, especially in that fourth quarter. They really got on top with their leaders, playing some important splices. 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐷 and Neil, big in the final quarter. They defended well too. So, yeah, heading into this game now, up and about, sitting in the top 4. How will they fare though? Because Gold Coast, they are yet to lose at home this season. And also, when you look at it, there's no Darragh Joyce and there's no Harrison Andrews for the Lions with this game. So it's an opportunity for the likes of the tall targets in the air, 𝐓𝐴𝐿𝐼𝐷 and King, to really get on top. They were disappointing last week, very inaccurate too. And that just summed up Gold Coast's loss against the Giants last week. Extremely wasteful. They didn't have a problem with having the numbers. I think they had a high amount of forward half turnovers, and they won the inside 50s by around 18 or so, and they were smacking the Giants in clearances throughout the stage of that game. But just forward of the ball, I think they're ranked one of the worst teams in the competition for cohesion. But they're usually a lot better at home. I don't know what it is. So yeah, this one's a bit of a tough one. It's got to really shut down Neil and also Dunkley, get some accountable plays on them. So really, this one could go either way. Looking at Brisbane's class and their punish as well, their turnover game has been excellent as of late. I like them here, but I might just continue with the bandwagon going with the Suns at home. Like them as an opportunity to really shut down Brisbane in the midfield. And also, if I can really get that forward half game churning, Brisbane have been struggling in those areas defensively a little bit too. So I'm going to be backing in the Suns here. This one will be a close one. We'll go Gold Coast by 9 points. Then at the same time, we have the Saints taking on the Dons at Marvel Stadium. Really interesting game this, because you look at Essendon pushing into the top 8. The Saints this season is done, but their last few weeks, St Kilda has been much better, and I think they'll continue to be a thorn in a lot of good team sides. And I did see Ross Lyon's press conference saying he wants to be the Grinch and maybe steal a few wins from these competing top 8 teams. But yeah, Essendon have been a little bit up and down the past 2 games, though haven't been very promising, dropping their past 2 matches, losing to Melbourne and also the Crows, where they really, let's be realistic, they should not have lost to the Crows. Don't want to disrespect Adelaide. I thought they were great, but looking at it, they really should have controlled the game and put it to bed. Conceding the last few goals of that game, they'd be filthy with that. And they do probably need the likes of Darcy Parish back in there. I feel like their clearance game has been not so great the past few matches. The pressure has really dropped off throughout stages of games, so they've really got to bring back that Essendon edge if they want to get back on top here. Under the lid at Marvel is where you'd arguably say the Saints do play their best footy, however, so if they can really build up through that uncontested style. The midfield was really promising last week, still probably one of the best on ground, so going to have another big midfield performance should the Saints get up. But if the Saints can control the footy well, defend well, and also move the footy with a bit of pace through the arcs, that can really expose the Dons defensively. So honestly, I don't mind the Saints here for the tip, given the form that the Dons are in. They have not looked very convincing, but I'll back in the Bombers. I just think the quality, looking at them, should find a way to knock off the Saints here. So the Bombers to win one that I think will be close, back and forth, but Essendon will get on top and win by 11 points. Then for Saturday night, we do have the MCG, Melbourne taking on the GWS Giants. Well, how about that from Melbourne last week? Probably one of their worst performances easily of the season. just capitulated defensively, got killed in the clearances. I think for one stage it was like 20-1. Viney, Oliver, they were just eaten alive. Tom Sparrow's also been thrown into the fire a little bit. How's he performing? The absence of Gawn has been a massive one, and I am going to assume he is playing this week. But as for GWS, the past few weeks they are continuing to win, which is good, but is it a bit of papering over the cracks? How they're winning, though, is just pure efficiency and just pure poise when they go inside their forward half. I think Toby Green and Hogan have been in excellent form. They've been a very unselfish side, getting a lot more from the role players, and the pressure's really ramped up. And this is a key factor, I think, for GWS when they really get the ball rolling. Their pressure game is some of the best in the competition. I think when I was watching that Gold Coast game, they said GWS is the #1 pressure side in the comp. So really got to bring it to Melbourne, because they are on their knees at the moment, and they're just getting killed in the midfield and also defensively a little bit. But this is back in the MCG, so I expect a bounce back from Melbourne, given they are still, a team that's pushing for the 8. Don't see them, absolutely capitulating like they did last week against Fremantle. Hard to play in Perth too. So looking at the Giants' contested and clearance game, though, it has let them down. That is why I'm saying possibly has it been papering over the cracks a little bit. They've got to get better. I feel like they haven't. They've turned the ball a little bit too much also in their back half. So Melbourne got to capitalise. Look at a few of their past performances, though. They've been very good in the contested game. They've been good off the turnover too, like they were against Essendon. So if they can really take their chances against the Giants side, I don't mind them here. But the quality of GWS is hard to go against, given the form of the players sitting inside their forward 50. So I like them here, but I'm going to go with a bounce back for Melbourne. This is one really against the grain, but going back on the side, I think really changes things. I think the Giants have been a little bit vulnerable in the contested game, so I might back in Melbourne here. This one against the grain, but I think you've always got to go with a few upset tips. So I think the Giants' quality gets it done, but I'm liking Melbourne for a bit of an emotional charge, a bit of an emotional bounce back. So Melbourne to win this one in a close one by 8 points. Other Saturday night game, we have Fremantle taking on the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium. The Dockers, they are now starting to really hit form at the right time. We always talk about the premiership runway. You've got to be winning games left, right and centre in the back half of the season, or the post-bye run in the lead up to finals, because that form is so important. And you never know, at this rate, they could charge to a prelim final or grand final, but we don't want to go too far. But the Eagles, though, they'll definitely be treating this as their grand final. The interim coach, and all the scenarios that have happened as of late, so they haven't been playing the greatest footy too. They've been okay throughout patches, but just a lot of passages exposed in their side, and they've been terrible with defensive transition. Fremantle with form, it's pretty straightforward here. Don't mind the Eagles for maybe winning a quarter or two, but Freo, home game for them as well. Their ball movement's been excellent. Midfielders starting to gain some form. Thought Brayshaw has been in a rich vein of form too. His last few games have been excellent. No Alex Pearce for this game. He has gone down with another forearm injury, I'm pretty sure. So I'd say that probably hurts them for the long term rather than this game. The quality of the Dockers with how they are playing, and I've got to be tipping them here against the Eagles. So they'll win this one well by 35 points. Now for the Sunday games, we have first up Collingwood taking on the Tigers at the MCG. Well, what an opportunity this is for the Tigers to get their 3rd win of the season. Now facing a very depleted Collingwood side. Their past few weeks has been an absolute disaster. First time Craig McRae as Collingwood coach has lost 4 in a row, and they just completely look lost. Form dips, injuries, just how they're playing too. I think this year they've just got well exposed through their system. They've not been great defensively this year. The absence of Nathan Murphy continues to really show. So the Tigers, nothing to lose. I think the last 2 weeks have been excellent, very competitive, but throughout periods of games, that's what's really let them down. They just weren't very efficient against the Giants, but they got on top of that contested game. And football, Adelaide, really competitive. But yeah, that 4th quarter, they'd like to forget. So now facing Collingwood side that's looking very vulnerable, on their knees. Could they put the final nail in the coffin here? I honestly don't mind it. They'll get back in Tim Taranto, I'm pretty sure, from injury. I'm liking how Jacob Hopper's going as of late. I think his past few games have been good. In the coalface, 𝐼𝐴 is going to hurt them though, which is a big part of his ability to shark the ball out of contests and get at 40s, out with concussion, I'm pretty sure. Apart from their loss to the Hawks, the Pies, I think the big problem with them is they just haven't been able to play their brand for 4 consistent quarters. So I generally think the Tigers could get the upset win here. I don't mind them, especially with how they're going in the contested game, but Surely the Pies can't lose 5 in a row. They were completely depleted last week, but Craig McRae, he's still a big believer. I still think Collingwood are that side where when they get the energy up, they are a side that is hard to beat. So I've got to go with them with the bounce back here. Probably aren't brave enough to go with the Tigers being the reason. So yeah, I think the Pies will get back on the horse and get an important win here to theoretically keep their season alive. So I'll go Collingwood here. �𝐴𝐺𝐸, I reckon this one will be though, but the Pies to run away with it and win by 14. Next game up, we have probably one of the games of the round. The Swans taking on the Dogs at the SCG. Really good form. The Dogs are now starting to hit into the past 2 games. They have won really good quality opponents too, knocking off the Blues at Marvel and also the Cats down at the Cattery. The contested game's been really impressive as of late. Bontempelli hasn't been really a match winner, but they've had the likes of Richards and also 𝐼𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴, such a collaborative effort from their midfield. They've been very dominant off the stoppage. I think behind the ball, they have found a lot of good answers. Tim English has been able to take some important clunks, but how about Rory Lobb? What a game he had last week against the Cats. Was just picking off absolutely everything. Don't mind them here, the Dogs. They're coming in this one with a bit of confidence. I think for the ball, they've always got those damaging targets with 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴 with these big looping kicks and also his contested marking too, and also Aaron Norton. But McCartan and Melican contained, I thought, Brisbane's key forwards last week very well. So I trust them to do the job and make it, I think, a really even battle. So looking at the Dogs' contested game, their pressure and also their ground level game has been great to watch. And I think looking at this, the Swans might not be without James Rowbottom. They're not going to be without Tom Papley, not going to be without Rampy. Few of those important outs now starting to hit for the Swans. Don't mind the Dogs here, but given this one is at the SCG, I'll sway my tip here to the Swans. Just think, even with their outs, they've lost all their games by under a goal this year. So I reckon if the Dogs win this game, it's going to be pretty close. And I think this one will be, but I think Sydney will run home with it in the 4th quarter. Just still like their quality, and it's at home too. So I reckon they can nullify their midfield and get them with a bit of speed, especially in transition. So I'll go with the Swans here in a one that will go back and forth. But the Swans run away with it and win by 11 points. And the final game of the round, we do have the Crows taking on the Hawks at the Adelaide Oval. This one, very interesting because you're looking at Hawthorn, one of the most informed teams in the competition, but they still do have the downsides of still a pretty young and inexperienced side. So winning these games away is always a pretty tricky task. And for the Crows, they demand a bit more respect now. I've been saying they're a team with high upside, but 2 in a row now it's been. They were really able to shut down St Kilda's ball movement and win the contested game very well. And the same can be said against the Dons. How they moved the footy was very good too. Ben Keys, as a midfielder as of late, has been excellent. He's just been everywhere in the forward half as well. 𝘼𝐻𝐿𝐴, really loved his game last week. And I think 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐴's going to improve with match fitness too. He started off the game very dangerous against the Dons. So I think if those key forwards can really dominate against the likes of Frost and Scrimshaw and Sicily, this is the area where the Crows could get the leg up on. However, it was a season-defining win for Hawthorn, knocking off the reigning premiers in quite some style. They play very similar to Collingwood from last year. Just so many contributors. They play with such a high amount of energy. They all get involved, and their ground level game is just excellent. And how they're able to move the ball in transition is quick, it's fast, it's cohesive. They are side on very high amounts of morale. So I don't think the away factor is really going to bother them too much. I think if Adelaide are able to move it really well from the back half and outdo the Hawks with some high amounts of pressure, I like the Crows here. And look, it's at home, so yeah, it's a 50-50 to be honest, this one. I just love the way Hawthorn are playing, and with this form, I'm just going to back them in here. Still have a little bit of questions on how they go these remaining few games. Could they drop out given their experience? They could probably pull out a bit of a down game like they did against the Cats. But I'm going to be going with the Hawks here. Just loving how they're playing, and I reckon they'll pick up a pretty special win here on the road and win a close one by 8 points. So overall, there were my tips for round 20 of the 2024 AFL season. Let me know what your tips are going to be down below in the comments section. Who are you going to be tipping? Are you going to be tipping anybody that is different from mine? Love to hear your people's thoughts down below in the comments. And that's pretty much it from me, everybody. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I will talk to you later. See you later, fellas.